Welcome to the owner's class video for the SINGER Featherweight Model C240 sewing machine. In this video, we'll show you what you need to know to successfully set up your machine for sewing. Some of the topics we'll cover are winding the bobbin, threading the top of the machine, threading the needle, selecting stitches and presser feet, making a buttonhole, changing the needle, and more. Let's begin with a quick tour of your machine and its main parts. The first thing we're going to do is plug in the power cord and then plug in the foot control. Press this switch to turn the machine on, and you'll know that it's on when you see the light come on. Up here is your carry handle, and when you open the top lid of the machine, you can see all the stitches that are built into your Featherweight C240 sewing machine. This is the bobbin winding spindle and the bobbin winding stopper, your spool pin, a thread guide, and another thread guide. This is your bobbin winding tension disc. This is your thread tension, which can be used for fine-tuning the look of your stitches. This is the presser foot pressure dial, and that can be used for fine-tuning the presser foot pressure for very light or very heavyweight fabrics. This is your thread take-up lever. This is the start-stop button, which lets you sew without use of the foot control if you want to. This is the reverse button. This is your presser foot lifter, which raises and lowers your presser foot. This is the integrated even feed system, which feeds fabric from the top and bottom at the same time, so your fabrics are fed through the machine precisely. We'll show you that in more detail later in the video. This is your presser foot, your needle, and this is your built-in needle threader. This is your needle plate, your bobbin cover, and this is your removable storage compartment. It slides off the end of the machine, converting your machine to a free arm. This is great for hemming pants, sewing sleeve cuffs, and so on. And when we take a look at our removable storage compartment, it actually has a compartment in the back and in the front. In the back is an additional spool pin and a buttonhole foot. And in the front part of your removable storage compartment are some additional accessories like spool caps, extra needles, extra bobbins, and some really Let's begin by winding a bobbin. We're going to need to retrieve the bobbin from the bobbin holder. So press this button at the right to take the bobbin cover off and retrieve your empty bobbin. These bobbins are SINGER Class 15 transparent bobbins. If you ever want to buy additional bobbins for your machine, make sure that you purchase SINGER Class 15 transparent bobbins. To know how to wind your bobbin, you can refer to these diagrams at the top of the machine, indicated with the gray. The blue ones are for the needle, and we'll do that later, so we're going to follow the gray diagrams. Place your thread on the spool pin and cover it with the spool cap. Take your thread, bring it first into this first thread guide, and then bring it in front of this guide right next to your bobbin winding tension disc, and then go around your bobbin winding tension disc kind of like a little letter C, and make sure it's snugly in between the discs. Bring your thread to the right to place it into the bobbin. You can refer to the diagram at the top of the machine as well. Place it in from the center, out through one of the holes, hold the thread tail, and place the bobbin down securely onto the bobbin winding spindle. As you hold the thread tail with your right hand, press the bobbin to the right and step on the foot control to begin winding. Stop to trim the thread tail, and when you do so, trim it close to the top of the bobbin. Step on the foot control to resume winding, and if you want it to run a little bit faster, you can come here to the front of your machine and press your speed control. The bobbin will stop automatically when it's full, or you can take your foot off the foot control when you feel like you have enough thread for your project. When your bobbin is full, push it to the left and then lift it off the bobbin winding spindle. Trim the thread, and now you're ready to insert the bobbin into the bobbin holder. Now that our bobbin is wound, it's time to place it in the bobbin holder. To make sure you're placing it in the bobbin holder correctly, make sure that when you look at the bobbin, that your thread is coming off the top, off to the left, so that it almost looks like a small letter P. Place the bobbin in the bobbin holder and lightly pull the thread with your left hand to make sure that it's turning counterclockwise. Next, place your finger lightly on the top of the bobbin and bring the thread in front of this first guide. Follow the white arrow up to the white arrow U-turn, and then bring it forward again to the last white arrow and tuck it into this last guide. Hold the thread with your left hand, replace the bobbin cover, snap it in place, and then pull the thread to trim the tail. If you just wound a bobbin, the top of your machine probably looks like this. So we'll take the thread out from around the bobbin winding tension disc and thread the top of the machine, referencing these blue thread guides at the top. We'll take our thread, which is already in the first thread guide, and bring it into the second thread guide, down, around the U-turn, up to the right of the take-up lever, then bring it to the left and pull it forward so that the thread slips into the eye of the take-up lever. And then bring the thread down into the needle threading area. Bring the thread behind this first guide and then tuck it around this thread guide just above the needle. Holding the thread with your right hand, use your left hand to bring the threading lever down, bringing the thread around that first guide on the lever. Swing it back until the prongs encompass the needle and tuck the thread up under the needle. Pull forward with your left hand as you release the thread with your right hand, forming a loop, and then just pull the loop to finish threading the eye of the needle. Place the thread under the presser foot to the back, and now we're ready to sew. Now that our machine is threaded, we're ready to test the stitch to make sure that we've threaded the machine correctly. First, engage your integrated even feed. Place your fabric underneath the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and then step on the foot control to start sewing. Our stitch looks good on the top and looks good on the back. So we've threaded the machine correctly. If your stitch looks good on top, but on the back side you see a lot of loops and irregular thread, it actually means that you've threaded the upper thread incorrectly. Even though it's on the bottom side of your fabric, it's an indication that your upper thread has been incorrectly threaded. Check your manual or your quick start guide and rethread your machine. This is your integrated even feed system. It helps feed your fabrics perfectly from the top and bottom. Let's take a look at some examples of how integrated even feed helps your sewing. For shears, without integrated even feed, you can have rippling or puckering in your stitch. But by engaging the integrated even feed, you can sew stitches without puckers. And here you have a stitch that was sewn beautifully without puckers. Another thing that your integrated even feed system is good for is sewing thick seams, such as like when you hem a pair of jeans. Here's an example of what it would be like if you hem a pair of jeans and you have the thick seam where you turn up your hem and you turn it up again, and you can have as many as 9 layers of denim. So let's see how that works. So here you have a jeans hem effortlessly sewn thanks to our integrated even feed system. Still, another thing your integrated even feed system is great for is sewing fabric layers, such as when making quilts. It also prevents shifting of napped fabrics like velvet or corduroy and keeps seams straight when sewing stripes and plaids. When you first turn on the machine, it goes directly to straight stitch. In order to know which presser foot to use, we're going to come here on the panel and press this I button, which means info. When I press that, it says OA. That means my general purpose presser foot. I'm going to press that one more time, and I can see that there's a dot here in the corner, and that also means that I need to engage my integrated even feed system. My OA foot is already on the machine, and now I'm going to reach down and engage my integrated even feed, and we're ready to sew the seam. I'm going to place the fabric underneath the presser foot with the edge of my fabric along my selected seam guideline. Step on the foot controller to start sewing, and we'll sew a couple of stitches, and then press the reverse button to sew backwards a few stitches to lock the seam. Now we're going to sew forward again. When I come to the end of the seam, sew a couple of stitches in reverse, sew forward again, raise the presser foot lifter, and trim your thread. And there's our seam. We sew reverse stitches at the beginning and end of the seam so that our seam doesn't come undone as we continue to work on our project. This is your general purpose foot 0A, which you use with your integrated even feed system. This foot is used with your utility or basic stitches. Your all-purpose foot 1A is also used with the integrated even feed system, and this foot is used for many of your decorative stitches. For more dense decorative stitching, you'll use satin stitch foot 2A, which is not used with the integrated even feed system. The blind hem foot 3 is used with the integrated even feed system, and this is for sewing blind hems. The zipper foot 4 is also used with the integrated even feed system, and this is for sewing in zippers and also for making and inserting piping. And lastly, you have buttonhole foot 5B, and that's for sewing buttonholes. Now let's take a look at how to select stitches and a closer look at some of the other features of your machine. I'm going to use the zigzag stitch, which is stitch 02. I want to be sure I'm using the correct presser foot, so I'm going to press the info button, and I can see that I need presser foot 0A, and that's already on my machine. When I press info one more time, I can also see that this little dot appears in the corner, and that's an indication that I need to engage the integrated even feed system. It's already engaged, so I'm ready to sew. I'm going to place my fabric underneath the presser foot, lower the presser foot lifter, and step on the foot control to begin sewing. My machine is sewing at its lowest speed right now, but I can use my speed control buttons 3, 4, and 5 times. Stop sewing, raise a presser foot lifter, and you can trim your thread at the side of the machine on your built-in thread cutter. So here's our default setting for our zigzag stitch. Let's take a look at how to adjust length and width on a stitch like zigzag. This is your stitch width control, and this is your stitch length control. Let's talk about stitch width first. You can touch either of these to see what your current setting is or what your default setting is. So I could see by touching this once that my stitch width was set at 4.0. If I want to increase my stitch width, I can simply press the plus sign until I reach my maximum stitch width, which is 7 millimeters. So let's see what that looks like. It's quite a big difference. I can also make my stitches narrower by pressing the minus. When I come back to the default setting of 4.0, the LED light goes out, the 4.0 value blinks momentarily. We can continue pressing to come to a narrower setting. Let's try a 2.0 for example. Place the fabric under the presser foot and step on the foot control to begin sewing. And here you have a narrower value on your stitch width. Let's go back to the default setting of 4.0 for our stitch width. And let's look at changing the stitch length. As before, I can touch either the plus or minus to see what my stitch length value is, and in the case of the zigzag, stitch number 0.2, that value was 1.5. I can lengthen out my stitch length. .5 is maximum, so let's see what that looks like. So here's my default width, but my stitches are just a little further apart by increasing stitch length. Let's go the other direction and bring them closer together. To do that, we'll go down to, let's say, a 0.8. And here you can see our stitches are closer together. So for any of your decorative stitches or your utility stitches, you can experiment with stitch length and stitch width and even some decorative threads to get the look you want for your project. Now let's see how to select one of our decorative stitches. I'm going to use stitch number 27. So I'm going to press 2-7 on my panel, and I'm going to press the info button to see which foot I should use. I see I need foot 1A, and I'm also going to need to use the integrated even feed system. Down here, I'm going to temporarily disengage the even feed and remove my foot 0A by pushing up on the toes of the foot to release it. I'm going to place foot 1A on the machine. The difference between 1A and 0A is basically when you turn them over, you can see on the back side of foot 1A, there's a tunnel or a bit of a groove under here that lets your stitching pass freely underneath. Bring your foot underneath the presser foot holder and lower the presser foot lifter until the foot snaps in place. Place your threads under the presser foot and reach behind to engage the integrated even feed system. And now we're ready to sew stitch number 27. When you're finished sewing, raise your presser foot lifter, trim your threads, and here's your stitch. Now I'm going to select one of my more dense decorative stitches, number 50. So up here on my panel, I'm going to press 50, and when I press my info button, I can see I need foot 2A. And because there's no dot here in the corner, it means I do not use integrated even feed system. I can also tell because the foot does not have the cutaway for the even feed system. So we're simply going to change the foot. I'm going to disengage the integrated even feed system and push up on the toes of the foot that's on the machine. Place foot 2A under the presser foot holder and lower the presser foot lifter to snap it into place. And place our threads underneath the machine, and we're going to sew stitch number 50. And there's our beautiful decorative stitch number 50 using our satin stitch foot 2A. There's another really great feature on your SINGER Featherweight C240 sewing machine called the tie-off button, and it's located right here on the front of your panel. When you're sewing a stitch and you want to stop, you can press this button and it will pause, tie off the stitch, and stop sewing. Let's see how that works. I'm going to use stitch number 53. So I'm ready to tie off. And I can trim my thread and my stitch is secure. Now let's see how to make a buttonhole. When you sew a buttonhole, it's often a good idea to use a interfacing or a stabilizer to help prevent the dense stitches of the buttonhole from puckering on the fabric. Lay your button on the fabric and use a removable fabric marking pen or pencil to mark the bottom of your buttonhole, and then take a ruler to mark the center area of your buttonhole. Now we're ready to go to the machine to attach the buttonhole foot. In the back of your removable storage compartment, you'll find your buttonhole foot. Remove the foot that's already on the machine. Open the back of the foot. Set your button in the slide at the back and close it to secure the button in place. Bring your buttonhole foot underneath the presser foot holder. Lower the presser foot holder until the foot snaps into place. I can see that I have 3 different buttonhole styles to choose from. I'm going to select stitch number 10, which is the bar tack buttonhole. On the front of my machine, I'm going to press 1, 0, and we're ready to sew the buttonhole. After placing your upper thread through the hole in the top of the presser foot, Bring your fabric under the foot so the line you drew is lined up inside the hole and it's visible through the hole in the front of the presser foot. Lower your presser foot lifter and then bring down your buttonhole lever, making sure it's behind this white part of your buttonhole foot. When the buttonhole is finished sewing, the machine will stop automatically. Raise your presser foot lifter and remove your work from the machine. Trim your thread tails and then place a pin at the end of your buttonhole and use your seam ripper, which is located in your removable storage compartment, to cut open the buttonhole. Place it in the end of the buttonhole and push across the buttonhole carefully, making sure you don't cut through the bar tack stitches. The pin will help stop your seam ripper from cutting that open. Take the pin out and you have a beautiful buttonhole. From time to time, you'll need to change the needle depending on the type of fabric you're sewing or when the needle becomes dull or damaged. To change the needle, first turn off the power to the machine. Remove the presser foot. And it's a good idea to place a piece of paper over the throat plate so that you don't accidentally drop the needle down into the machine. There's a small hole on the end of this tool from your removable storage compartment that you'll use to slide up over the old needle, and use the screwdriver from your removable storage compartment to loosen the needle clamp screw to release the needle. Drop the needle out of the machine and place your new needle in the hole of the tool with the flat side of the needle toward the back. Tighten the screw securely with the screwdriver from your removable storage compartment and then remove the tool from the needle. Remove the paper and reattach your presser foot. For threading tips, check out your machine's Quick Start Guide. Or to learn more about your machine and even some additional sewing techniques, check out your machine's instruction manual or visit the Singer website.